I call to order Planning Commission, regular session, Cape Charles Civic Center, 500 Tazewell Avenue, March 1st, 2022. Roll call, please.
Holloway present.
Strube present.
McCoy present.
Buda present.
D'Amico present.
Grossman present.
We have a quorum. Can we all stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anyone object to approval of the consent agenda? Hearing no objection, the consent agenda will be taken by unanimous consent. No public hearing. Do we have any citizen comments? No? All right. Thank you. Moving right along. Unfinished business. Continue discussion of proposed zoning text amendments regarding accessory dwelling units and affiliated zoning definitions. Madam Interim Zoning Administrator. Here we go again.
Okay. So, I have provided you, hopefully a correct understanding of what you had agreed to during our work sessions, at the work session, as well as, they were both work sessions, sorry. So I did want us to have a chance to walk through this, so. if
Are
we
you
can
up
do-
for editorial comments?
Yes, both in terms of the sections that we did.
These are just typos, that's all.
Sure, we'll take everything, because
Okay.
I will never acknowledge that my work is ever perfect.
No, I'm the same way.
So I appreciate it. And as well, not just on what we have put together is what I had pulled out is what all of the proposed changes to the document so far. But if, now that you've seen it in its totality at this point, if there are additional items that you feel should be discussed before we move any further, those can be raised as well this evening. So, the first area, again, you have the legend to hopefully run through the colors. It'd be great if I actually followed the legend all the way through, so that's on me. So the very first one, A, where we are proposing to add a new section, that should have been in the red italic font, so this is a brand new section, is to establish a statement of intent at the beginning of this section. And I propose to establish criterion standards for accessory dwelling units to implement one component of the goal from the town's comprehensive plan to add diversity of housing type while maintaining the neighborhood character and providing affordable housing options. The intent is to allow an increased density on a lot in specific zoning districts to provide long-term rental units to meet the housing needs of the town and county workforce population.
I thought we had discussed at one point in time that it doesn't actually say workforce population.
You're correct. In the comp plan, it doesn't identify it as workforce housing. It says affordable housing.
Or low income, well, low income housing is in the zoning ordinance. The comp plan has cost burdened households.
No, it clearly said pretty much that first statement is almost from the comp plan, is to add diversity of housing type while maintaining the neighborhood character and providing affordable housing options. It didn't define it further.
Right.
But in our research, when we were doing this whole conversation debate, when the ADU was first proposed to the town council, that was part of the discussion, is they were supportive of adding ADUs in as a use through special use permit or conditional use permit to provide an option of affordable housing for the workforce component of our population, to look at a longer-term rental capacity as part of that criteria. So that's where I really took that second sentence from the prior council conversation that happened when the ADU ordinance was originally adopted.
Okay.
Any other changes, or are you okay with this new section being proposed?
That's good.
Yeah, looks good.
I like it.
I have my first Oh, you're just talking about that,
First
si-
paragraph.
Yeah, just that.
one dot.
Yeah.
Got it. Go ahead.
Okay, two, you are request to add a new section of definitions here under the accessory dwelling unit section of the ordinance. And so there's a cross of things because some definitions are already in the ordinance, just under Article 2. So you're gonna see different colors here because some you've asked us to pull forward and repeat them again here in Article 4. Kitchen being one of them is a new one. Space within a structure designated for the preparation of food that includes a sink. Bathroom, a room or area that includes a sink and toilet, may also include a bathtub, shower, or bidet. You asked us to pull forward building accessory, which I did. Based upon the other changes you made in the ordinance, I did make a tweak to that existing definition and took out the conditional use permit requirement and tweaked it to read that it requires a zoning permit is issued in compliance with section 4.2J.
Katie, it's that tweak that I have issue with.
Okay?
You don't need two As.
Unless AA.
Oh, I missed the first one. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Very good.
Before we go on too much further, but I wanted to get the thoughts from the commission. This says, for a kitchen, it says a designated area for the preparation of food and a sink. Does that definition need to say a designated cooking area for the preparation of food?
The Virginia,
Or does it not need that?
the Unified Building Code describes a kitchen as a space within a structure designated for the preparation of food,
Okay,
period.
that's fine.
They don't even add sink to it. It seemed to me,
Yeah,
to call something a kitchen should have a sink.
yeah, I agree. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And then you also asked me to pull forward the definition of dwelling unit, which currently sits in Article 2, and I've done that word for word. I think that was all of the definitions you asked me to include under this section. And anywhere that you were proposing to add it into Article 4, you're gonna see further down in the memo, I've repeated ourselves and ensuring that we go back and sync it up with Article 2.
All right, so the only comment I have is it kind of deviates from what we have done in the past in the collection of definitions in Article 2.
Yes.
In fact, we took all the historic information out of Article 8, put it in. Now, I've seen it in like state code, when you get into a particular section, they repeat, I'm hoping it's a repeat of definitions that are particular to that section. But what you run into, and I have no problems either way, what you run into is changing the definition in one location and forgetting the other, and now you're out of whack. That's the only reason that you would put it all in one place and leave it at that. But I have no bones, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. This is now setting up precedents for other changes that we make in the future.
It's fine.
You know-
I think the commissioners did want to have the definitions in there so they didn't have to go back to the other place to look at the definitions. So we've got 3 definitions in there, so,
Yeah, it's basically to how to
4, sorry.
fast track the conditional use permit process, so we don't spend a lot of time in the weeds trying to dig through paperwork.
Don't worry, we fixed that because we're taking out the
We don't have
conditional
a
use permit
conditional use
requirement.
Okay.
You voted on that.
I
Whatever.
would personally prefer that all definitions reside in Section 2, and that we not, because it will increase the length of our code. And as Paul was saying, the more we do add definitions in different places, I just would rather have them all in one spot.
I disagree. I'll tell you why. And it's the same argument I just made. The definitions in the ordinance make it a lot simpler, especially when the requester is filling out the paperwork. They get to see the definitions that they're dealing with right then on the same document that they sign. Right, Katie? Or am I missing something here?
You're missing it from this regards. these would actually be contained in the zoning ordinance itself in Article 4.
Okay,
It doesn't necessarily mean that these definitions will then be repeated as part of any affidavit process that will be created, an affidavit form would be created that the applicant would then sign.
Then I
for their
withdraw my
application
comment. Okay,
process.
okay.
So I will chime in on this. It is useful that you have all the definitions fall in one area, because I don't want anyone to think, when they start to review it, okay, so we defined dwelling unit, building accessory, kitchen and bathroom, but we didn't nail down something else. And then now we say, oh, but you can go look under the definition section, well, no, you really meant for only these terms to be defined.
Right.
Those are meant for the rest of the ordinance, but not for this section.
Mhm.
So there's validity of saying all the definitions are found under this article.
Yeah,
And they
to
apply
Paul's point.
throughout the entire ordinance.
Yeah, to Paul's point, I think it is safer from a process perspective to have one and only one copy of the definition. Yeah.
So you like that these terms are defined, but we are okay to take them out of Article 4 and keep them all under Article 2?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I have something here. Under dwelling unit, at the very end where it says exclusive use of a single family maintaining a household, we don't have a definition for single family, although we have a definition for family, which works, and also a definition for household, which is almost the same thing as a definition for family. So I would just say, let's get rid of the word single.
I think there's some purpose for that, especially when you start to look at duplexes and how that gets applied within this ordinance. So I guess I would like to go back and look at duplex and how that is applied and what definitions are associated with that, to make sure I'm not tripping us up there in how we administer duplexes, that's all. Okay, am I ready to?
So when you're saying what you're saying there for single family is that it's not single family as in mommy, daddy, and children. You're saying a single unit of
Of a family, however
a
that is
family,
defined by that
however you
person.
define family.
Right. It doesn't mean they have to be married to each other, it could be whatever status they do that they consider themselves a family unit.
Can be a single person.
Okay.
It
Like
could
we
be a
say,
single person.
single-family residence.
It could be me living with all my cousins, because I can't stand my husband. Who knows? He's not watching, don't worry.
And have we passed 3?
No, we're getting ready to go to 3.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to number 3. So now we come to what is the original ordinance as you know today. So we did propose some changes there. We are proposing to strike contingent upon approval as a conditional use in accordance with section 4.3. So again, throughout this document, anywhere where we were seeking this through a conditional use permit has been removed from consideration. We also tweaked in C to add the word one kitchen area, one bathroom, and sleeping area as,
I would, okay, let me state my case. It's right there that I have the issue. And it is the power of and that concerns me. I want to insert an A sleeping area as opposed to bathroom and sleeping area being a combined single concept.
okay?
Okay? Thank you.
So comma
One
Whatever,
bathroom, and
whatever's the
a
right,
sleeping area.
And a sleeping area.
yeah, right,
A. Gotcha.
right.
Okay.
And can you only have one sleeping area in an accessory dwelling unit?
Well, typically, these accessory dwelling units are square footage limited based upon the principal structure. So within, say, your average is running around 650 square feet.
It's hard to get to.
Well, I think what we're saying here, these are the minimum requirements
Yes.
Well, in
for
that
that.
Right.
case, we should say that, I would say. Minimum.
Okay, if you have two twin beds in the same area, it's still a sleeping area,
Yeah.
right?
However, we're saying, and a sleeping area. So you're saying you're saying everybody could sleep in one sleeping area and that would be acceptable? Is that acceptable under the building code? Don't know.
Oh,
If
how many
this-
kids can sleep in a dorm room?
Well, but a dorm room is different.
Sorry, a dorm room's supposed to only sleep one or maybe two people by the number of beds, but I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
remember my college years,
It could be 8.
Yeah, I'm telling terrible stories about myself, but yeah, we used to sleep a lot of people in the dorm room.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So,
Large families do that all the time. Sure. Yes, right. Yeah.
Mat on the floor.
so,
Yep.
So,
okay,
three is
So-
other requirements?
So let me
Go ahead.
let me throw something here. So Ken brought up minimum requirements. You said, no, this is the requirement. So what we're saying is, if somebody wanted to put in 2 bathrooms, just because I want to have 2 bathrooms, one's going to be a full bath and one's going to be a half bath,
they could.
is that gonna be a catch-all where he says, no, it's more than 1 bathroom?
No, it shall have, oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, shall have 1 bathroom. So again, I'm looking at an accessory dwelling unit. Let's kind of map out the square footage for a minute. So let's presume the average is sitting around 650 square feet. I think that's a reasonable number. I'm looking at Paul because he probably knows these better.
that is.
So if I have to provide a kitchen area, about how much square footage do you think would be devoted for that of the 600?
Well, it's even less, because we max out at 560 square foot,
There
right?
you go. I knew you would know the number.
Yeah, 560.
However, you only need 1 sink. So you could use your kitchen sink as your kitchen and your bathroom sink and have a toilet next to the sink and no shower, so then
No.
you're set,
No, for a bathroom, it needs a room or area that includes a sink and a toilet.
okay?
And then we also say for a kitchen, it's the preparation of food that includes a sink. So those define 2 distinct sinks.
Well,
I would-
we have seen accessory dwelling units where they have a bedroom
Yep.
and they have a living space. And so they could have a pull-out sofa and
Futon?
Yes.
futon.
Right.
Okay, well, I just,
Why not 2 sets of bunk beds?
sure, you
That
could have
puts
it.
4 people in there and you've
Yeah.
got 1 sink and 1
But
toilet.
it's still a sleeping area.
Right.
It's not,
Well,
Single.
no.
I guess I'm trying to say, do we want to think about controlling how many people can be in a space this small? An accessory dwelling unit.
It's a family, so I mean.
Right,
A
yeah.
family could have 6 people in it. You know, I mean, or more.
Whoa.
For the
4
accessory,
kids.
yeah, for the accessory dwelling unit, does the applicant have to prove how many people are there, or, no, nothing, right?
We
'Cause
have,
you-
we have
you-
never touched upon.
Okay,
the,
right.
Any limitation on the number of people that can reside in the premise. We
Okay.
just defined it as a dwelling unit equals a single family.
Got it.
Well, is the building code going to limit?
Well, you know.
The
we talked about
occupancy?
The building code, you know, we've got some, I mean, I know it's 45% of the main dwelling,
Same thing.
but what if you have a dwelling, and we got some dwellings that are 3,000 square feet?
But there's a max.
Yeah,
So it's
there's a
45%,
max
but
in the
there's a
zoning
max.
area that it can't be
caps out.
over 560 square foot.
Period.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
right, yep.
And we're not really providing a home for a family, we're providing a home for workforce
Right.
Yeah.
housing. So what is our definition of workforce housing in that case, or workforce?
Three.
No, I'm workforce. Tracy's workforce. She's got a family, a giant kid.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying we are allowing somebody to put an extra dwelling unit in a residential area that really only calls for 1 dwelling unit.
Right.
So there should be some restrictions. So if we allow a family of 6 or 8 people, we have really greatly increased the population of that area.
That's tiny house living at that rate.
Well, hey, is it better than sleeping in your car?
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I'm just
sure.
saying that
Yeah, yeah.
if there's a family that, you know, that can't afford anything, having, you have 2 kids and 2 adults,
Well,
Yeah.
that, we can put some restrictions on what we're allowing. But do we want to, I mean, maybe we want to say no more than 2 adults and 2 children under the age of.
No, no.
Otherwise, do you want 4 adults in that house with 4 cars?
Well, as long as you can find parking and meet the parking requirements,
Well, the parking
that's gonna
requirement-
limit you to the number of vehicles.
The parking requirement says 1 on-site for an accessory dwelling unit per bedroom. So if you have a sleeping area and everybody's staying in the same sleeping area, that is 1. So 1 on-site space. And then parking everywhere else is public
Right.
on the street.
Yep.
So do we want to add that many potential cars?
We allow houses to be put up that potentially could house, with 3 bedrooms, that could house 10 people. And we don't say because it is a house that's a new construction, that we're going to limit the number of people that can stay in it. And I think to draw that line where it's
Yeah.
okay to put 12 people in a new construction house, but it's not okay to put 5 people. I mean, I don't anticipate 5 people, but
No, I don't either, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but-
it's a possibility.
It's it's going to come across as the privileged get what they want and the less advantaged don't get what they need. That's the biggest challenge I got with that argument. No, just speak your piece, Diane.
Let's say we have a single-family home and we've got 10 people in it. And then we have an accessory dwelling unit, and you're putting 4 or 5 people in it. It seems to me that what you, and this is another thing I'm going to
Go ahead,
suggest,
go ahead.
is that only one of those houses, one of those dwellings, either the accessory or the main, be rentable.
I think we went over that last meeting, and we
Yeah.
decided that's not the case.
Well, this is another meeting, and now we have other things. to
No,
think
I
about.
understand, but I think we've already decided that, that's my point.
Well, we did decide that. So we did say that you don't have to live, you can
Right.
rent out both units.
But that may build your case, go ahead,
Is
go ahead.
that then a better reason to have limits on numbers of people in the smaller house, the accessory dwelling unit?
Okay, let me ask this. What problem are you trying to solve?
I'm trying, first of all,
Go
I'm
ahead.
trying to solve too many cars, too many people. I'm trying to solve the people who don't really live here, maximizing the number of people that can live on a single-family lot. The accessory dwelling units, when you look at them, in the past and other places, one of the things they were to do was to provide additional income to the person who owned the home. It wasn't really to provide more and more and more and more rental space.
Remember the intent here of the ordinance. The intent is to provide an additional volume of workforce housing. That's the intent, right?
Yes.
Okay. And all these constrictions that you're wanting to put in place is going to limit our ability to be able to do as we intend.
Why?
Well, let's say that it's, a lot of stuff is seasonal here,
Right.
and we put the 60-day thing in there. But somebody may come here and needs housing for the summer. And he's gonna work the job in the summer, because he knows he can get a job here. And then maybe he wants to go south, get a job down there, because, it's iffy here in the winter.
Right.
So, and it's him and his wife, and they've got, let's just say it's him and his wife. And it's gonna be a lot like that, or there's a couple, or maybe 3 people or something, because they wanna share costs. So, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying. You're saying, oh, it's probably pretty much always gonna be two people. in
Well,
a
it probably will be,
And,
but there's gonna be
nothing that
exceptions.
controls anybody putting 8 in there.
No,
And it also, there's nothing really that says it is workforce housing. We're not going in there to see if they're workforce people. So we need some restrictions that
Okay.
control a little bit of what is going to go on.
well, again, you could put, I'm gonna just be devil's advocate here, and you could say, I'll use the four kids, okay? And they put bunk beds and they have a bedroom, and they put bunk beds in there, and then they have a fold-out couch, and the parents sleep there, and the kids sleep on the bunk beds. Okay? 2 sets of bunk beds.
I don't know where you're going.
Well, I'm just telling you that could, they could fit that in the 560 square feet.
Sure, they can sleep in a car. So they can certainly put it in 560 square feet.
Well, here's one of the issues I have, and I think of my own family, where my father grew up with 3 sisters and 2 parents in an apartment where my grandparents lived in that apartment for 50 years, and it was about 600 square feet.
Yeah.
And to say that my grandparents were not working people would just not be the case. So to look at those, to say that these people who live like this and make that choice we don't want that kind of people here.
Yeah, that's
That bothers me.
yeah.
That is not what we're saying.
No.
And don't twist my words to say that.
Well, that's how it comes across.
You know, maybe we ought to go through our zoning ordinance, just make it really pretty. Because that's what you're doing. We've got a certain size of building. We've got another main building that has people in it. We are just saying, because of the size limitations of this, we'd like to keep it to 4 people.
I didn't say that.
I'm saying that.
You're saying that, but you see, then you may be, again, you may be somebody that needs housing, they can't have it because you're doing that.
We can't provide housing for
I'm not-
everybody. The accessory dwelling units do not provide housing for large families. We have to find other ways to do it. Paul is on these 8 million different committees that are looking into it. We've got, hey, what is Bay Creek gonna step up to the table and bring us some workforce housing? I mean, I'm just saying, we can't provide it for everybody as much as we want to do it. We cannot, and we should not.
No, realize we keep talking workforce. These are also intended if you have a grandmother moving in, or a son that's gonna move out of the main house and into the back, or whatever. So it's, talk about workforce, but it's open up to
No, I know.
family and
I understand
whatever.
that. I understand
Yeah.
that.
I'd
But you
like
know,
to
I'm gonna just,
What?
I'll take it one more step, and that is, there's a lot of migrant workforce.
Yep.
Here, okay? And they, just because of their family traditions, they sometimes have a lot of people sleeping in a lot of small spaces, all right? And so what you're saying is that you're kind of saying that, I'm sorry, this is not what that's meant for.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not meant for migrant workers. I'm saying it's not meant for more than 4 in a dwelling unit. That's what I'm saying. Just restrict the number of people in the unit. By the way, if you're gonna say, you know what,
I
that brings up
disagree with
another
that.
thing
I
here about-
disagree with that completely.
Okay.
Here's an example.
Okay,
You've got a young family with 4 little children. Now you're saying, nope, they can't rent it because they're 6. But they've got 4 little kids, which don't even need to be on a bed. Okay? And that's why I don't agree with you. We shouldn't put a limit on how many people can stay in these units. I think the square footage alone is going to limit it.
but, yeah, I don't see the square footage limiting it. You know, look at our homes and say, gee, I've got this many square feet, and I have a living room, I have a rec room, I have a this. But there's a lot of people don't have that, and who can live in a very small space and say it's better than what I had? So why can't they cram 6 or 8 people into a space like that? And I don't think that we need to do that.
All right. I think we beat this dead horse, so any other thing?
But you know what, this brought up something else when you go back to this statement of intent. What you just said, because it says the intent is to allow an increased density on a lot in specific zoning districts to provide long-term rental units to meet the housing needs of the town and the county workforce population. So if you're putting your grandmother in there, does that statement fit with your grandmother?
No, not with the word workforce in there. It is,
do we need
it
to
is
change
for my,
that?
it is for my son who's working perhaps in the town and is gonna live on his own back there.
Yeah.
Do we need to craft a finer definition for what council intended to be put in the statement of intent?
I don't think council meant for it to exclusively be for workforce housing.
Well, again, the word leading into it is the intent is to,
Yeah.
okay? It implies there's flexibility in this, you know, other than saying, no, this is limiting to workforce housing only, and we're gonna have proof of what you make and what you work and all that stuff. That was not the intent here.
Do we have the wording?
There's no definition
there.
for workforce.
No, I don't mean that, but I mean, do we have, well, it's not in there. We're talking about what the council meant, and I know they had a discussion of this.
It was in your last packet.
Which none of us
Okay.
brought with us, but it's probably in here
So-
somewhere.
Let me move on.
So if, we could craft some proposed changes to this intent statement. So we could say potentially the intent is to allow an increased density on a lot in specific zoning districts to provide an opportunity for the creation of long-term rental units, to assist the housing needs of the town and county. And don't say workforce population.
Yeah,
if you
I like
take-
that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I like that too.
That's fine.
So I hope you got that down.
It's actually recorded, so. But you know, our, what we decided on the last time we met of moving this from 30 to 60 days, we're not gonna have short-term rentals in these things.
Right.
The whole objective is to make all of these accessory dwelling units for long-term.
Absolutely, yes.
And I
right.
think the move to do that is gonna help us immensely towards that goal.
Okay.
Can you repeat that, Katie, if you recall what that was?
The intent is to allow an increased density on a lot in specific zoning districts, to provide the opportunity in the creation of long-term rental units to meet the housing, to assist in meeting the housing needs of the town and county.
Okay,
I think that's what I said.
sounds good.
Would that resolve some of the conflict that might be, we're having at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Okay? Moving on then.
Okay,
So we're now under occupancy characteristics. We proposed a little bit of tweaking here. The change, get rid of the word no, so it reads accessory dwelling units shall be occupied, whether paying a fee for such occupancy or not, there should be a comma, sorry, by the same person or persons for a period no less than 60 consecutive calendar days.
Mhm.
And then further down, we also struck all reference to a conditional use permit process.
right.
Right.
Can we make unit plural, accessory dwelling units shall because we're speaking about them here in general throughout the town.
Sure, if that's what you care for.
Accessory dwelling unit.
Yep.
Down
Oh, geez. Shall be individually occupied?
toward-
Does that make sense to everybody?
Okay,
It's because,
Speed.
it's because he wanted to put plural in there, so it was a broader scope of the definition. And the follow-on is the specifics for a single, so that's why I wanted to add that.
would you read what you would want it to say?
Accessory dwelling units shall be singly occupied.
Or if we put individually in front. Or individually.
Well, wait, why don't you say an accessory dwelling unit shall be occupied, so we're still. almost
Okay, that's fine,
on
that's
that.
fine, that's fine.
An accessory dwelling unit,
With a singular of unit, right.
right, shall be occupied, and then with all the other changes
Yeah.
already.
Yep,
included.
yep.
Okay.
At the bottom of that, I have a question where it says, either verbally or in writing, so that the owner has to provide information either verbally or in writing if the town comes to them and asks for it. Why would we take it verbally? Why wouldn't we want information from the owner to be in writing?
That way we have a record.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because you don't have documentation if they do it verbally, unless you. So,
Yeah.
So if you're allowing your son to live there, what documentation should the property owner provide to you that your son is in there?
Well,
Well, you're asking later on for an
Yeah.
affidavit on
Right.
an annual basis. That's what,
So I get an
Well-
affidavit, but this is, we suspect, we're doing random checks. So
Yeah.
I'm asking you, so, Paul, who's living in your accessory dwelling unit?
or upon request from any building, so, finance,
So this
okay?
is slightly different, this is like a spot check.
Mhm.
So I'm just trying to ask you guys, because we've indicated it is possible for a potential family
Yeah.
member to be
Right.
the occupant of this accessory dwelling unit.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna ask you, what documentation in writing are you gonna give me? Just a letter to that effect? Yeah, that's my son over there.
All right, well, here's the thought.
It's,
Why, if you came, knocked on his door, you would have the affidavit that's in the files with you. And you would go, Paul, is your son John living in this accessory dwelling unit? And he would say, yes, he still is, and he would sign on the dotted line a second time and date it. That's in writing.
You're right, it's in writing, or I could know John, and as soon as I see him, yep, that's John, I know him, I can attest that
But
this
then
is
when
who's
you
residing
go
here.
away and
Right,
move to
yeah,
Hawaii
yeah.
to
That's part
retire,
of the notes I've written up to the case file.
Right,
maybe.
right, right.
well, pass.
You might, but the next person might not. I don't see what's the problem with putting things
If
in
that's what
writing.
you would like, it all to be in writing, then we can make that change.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say
I
so.
think that's, we have had, I'm not casting stones here, but Paul and I, we've had some problems trying to recreate stuff that was,
Verbally agreed to.
that was supposedly done and was somewhere in the planning office. So,
Isn't
I'm
there
not saying
something
that that
about a
problem gets
verbal
rectified
agreement
just
as
by
an agreement?
removing verbal.
yeah, you can have a verbal
Creative
agreement,
balance
yeah.
there, okay.
Well, yeah.
I think you just
Let's
take out the
keep
comment
on.
and say
Yeah.
as requested in writing.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
the piece that you struck out there with regards to
Inspections.
taking away their ability, I understand, but is this captured somewhere else, though,
Yeah, good question.
in your zoning space, that if,
Which piece?
The inspection piece.
The inspection, yes,
Yeah.
I deal with the inspection.
no, not the
No, no,
inspection,
not
the
the
one
inspection.
above the,
Huh?
reservation of the conditional use permit. Well, since we don't have a conditional, do you have something in zoning if they foul up continually to say finally it's not an ADU anymore? Can you pull the permit?
Yes, because that's part of what we're writing into this process, is there will actually be a zoning permit
All right, good,
issued.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a penalty?
It will follow the general penalty clause of the zoning ordinance as a whole.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Which we do need to,
Well, that's for
Revise.
town council to,
Well, that could be
Give
something
some
we
direction.
suggest along with this.
Yeah, right,
Is the inspection piece of this somewhere else? Also?
yes,
yeah, right.
yes.
Okay.
And I did that because, again, the way this was written, that inspection was tied to the issuance date of a conditional use permit. So
Right.
I tweaked it and added it elsewhere.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, moving on to other requirements.
They gotta come to that board with shops.
We've added a requirement, the accessory dwellings will be required to have its own trash can, separate from the main residence/structure. I am proposing this as a new section as a result of how we're trying to document things.
Yeah, I like this wording.
Accessory dwellings meeting the requirements of all of the physical characteristics of 4.2J. One above must obtain a certificate of completion for accessory dwellings from the code official, which is equivalent to a certificate of occupancy. In order to issue said certificate, the code official will conduct an inspection to determine compliance with the building code.
I like that.
Mm-hmm,
Yep.
yeah.
And this resolves Jeb's concern that he really wouldn't consider this for a C of O typically. And
Right.
so now we have crafted a way that he is comfortable with.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, well, back on, to B for a second, the term trash can, you're talking about an outdoor receptacle, right? That, doesn't the town use a different word to identify something that's outside of the house as opposed to just any trash can? Like
Trash
a
carts.
bin or a receptacle? I don't think it's called a household waste receptacle, but just something to make
To have
it
a-
clear.
And so I'm gonna ask this question because I don't live in town. Does the town supply all trash,
Yes.
outdoor
Yeah.
trash? So
Yes.
how about its own municipally issued
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there you go. All right,
There you go.
that would do it.
Yes, yes, right.
trash receptacle?
Receptacle. Yeah, there you
Perfect.
go.
There you go, yes.
That you empty your trash can into. You don't need to add that. Okay?
No,
Right,
don't,
right,
please,
right,
don't.
right.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Then we'll have to just, good lord,
You know, are we required to put our trash cans out on the street?
yes. Well, okay, no, no, no,
Only
no,
if you want it picked up,
That's right.
right,
Well-
exactly.
because
Yes.
they're not gonna come get it.
Well, I understand that, but
Or can you put it
that's,
on the sidewalk? If you put it
Right.
out to the sidewalk.
Wherever,
or
wherever
curb.
the pickup
but I'm
is.
just saying, is it written down that we're required to? I mean, I understand they're not going
I
to.
think that's covered under the town code
Okay.
dealing with solid waste.
So it would be the same thing with this then, they would be required to put it out.
You
Yes.
have to have, I think you have to have a trash receptacle is issued,
Right.
whether you use it or not. I mean, some people, you know, like, that come here, you know, they come here for a weekend or something, they don't put it out, they
No.
just take it and drop it off at the,
Oh,
Yeah.
bless those people. I know a lot of people who don't even do
well, I know that, but.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I did a tweak on what is now gonna be E. Parking shall, we struck a portion of this, now reads shall be in compliance with section 4.5.1.c.6, the table of parking standards, using both on and off-street parking areas.
Okay.
That table of parking standards says that is only for on-street parking. So where are you finding the off-street parking requirements?
Actually, when you read the entire section addressing parking regulations, there's a general standard that applies to all of this, it applies to the table as well. There's special characteristics that apply to the table as well, and then you have the table, which is defined based upon a use component. So the first two apply to everything, and then you then go to the use, figuring out, oh, am I a hotel? Oh, I'm a restaurant. Oh, I'm an accessory dwelling unit. Here's my parking,
Right.
regulation that's associated with it, the number of spaces I have to provide.
So there's more places than just that one line that says accessory dwelling unit? Yeah, under
It's
parking?
actually under the full parking regulation section, there's a,
Right.
there's an A, there's a B.
No.
That's always part of anything, for any use stipulated in the parking table.
I think we're talking the same thing, but I'm not sure we're saying the same thing to each other. We have this table for parking, right?
Yeah. And,
And-
and go back a page, at the start of parking,
At the start, oh, parking, okay?
what are those called? General regs?
Yes.
So do you want to delete then table of parking standards, since it implies that's the only thing you're pointing to?
Sure, if that would make it easier and
Well,
people
you're saying
understand.
C6,
Yes.
right?
So
I don't
it's-
know if you have to even back up to a higher level, 4.5.1?
Et cetera, yes. It's the whole parking section has to be complied with,
So let's just say 4.5.
yes.
Okay?
And explain to me why it's still more than the one space. I mean, this is so very specific, accessory dwelling units, one space per bedroom. Which
Okay.
we'd have to change that to sleeping area, I
But,
guess.
but that could be changed anytime in the future, so that way I don't have to keep changing every section of this ordinance, I only have to go to the master section. The
I
parking
agree,
regs.
I
And if you
agree.
guys change the parking regs, it's whatever they are, that's what has to be complied with here.
Right, but all I'm saying is that in your writing here, you're saying both on and off-street parking. So what you're saying then is, you would go over here and you would look, and there would be nothing that says off-street parking for accessory dwelling units. The only place accessory dwelling unit would be under on-site, and so that would be one space per bedroom. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, so if I'm using a conversion of an existing accessory structure, it may be exempt from some of these parking requirements by the ordinance stipulations, right?
No, why?
Yes, it is.
Why?
It possibly could be, yes, some of these could be legal non-conforming structures.
Right.
There are elements to it, so I'm just asking us to review and evaluate under all elements of the parking regulations.
All right, so 4.5 is titled off-street parking. Do we have to go higher in,
I don't have my ordinance with me, I'm sorry, I didn't even bring my laptop.
to capture some of the other sections?
So
that-
what's the start of the parking discussion? What section starts
I
parking?
think 4 or 5 starts it,
4.5.
right.
4.5.
It's titled
Off-street.
off-street, but I don't know if 4.6, do you have on-street somewheres?
It's interesting.
You got the
It's
general
off-street.
requirements,
They're not, everything that follows isn't just off-street. It talks about,
It's a combined, it's everything dealing with parking.
yeah, so maybe the
So
title.
The title needs to be
Well,
changed,
I-
you're right, right,
Have
yeah,
you
yeah.
looked through this whole thing? I'm only through 2, but all I see is off-street.
Yeah, but it's a big document.
I think the parking standards in town still remain one bedroom, one parking space. For instance, if you have a
Okay.
duplex with 2 bedrooms, you're required to have 2 spaces.
Right,
I only know this because of what we have to do for our business.
right.
We have to provide 4 spaces.
well, that's,
Right. I thought you had to provide 6.
We,
Good.
well, we do,
Well, I could have sworn.
but for the business, we require 4, total of 6. Yeah.
and I think what we're saying, even if it is only one, you can use either on or off-street parking areas.
Correct.
So my intent is to ensure that we look at the regulations and apply it here. So whatever that section number is, and titling and wording should be, I want to make sure that we are applying and reviewing all of the parking regs that are applicable. So,
So are you gonna check then to make sure 4, 5 satisfies what your
I will.
intent, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
Good,
thank
good.
you.
G is a new section I am proposing that we sort of danced around during our meetings. Annual certifications to be submitted to the town by March 15th of each year to the Building and Planning Department. One, the property owner will submit an annual affidavit on a town affidavit form for accessory dwellings attesting to their acknowledgement and adherence to the zoning ordinance requirements for accessory dwellings. Yes. For accessory dwelling units,
Yes.
Yeah,
okay?
we might as well use the same wording everywhere.
Two, the property owner will submit an annual affidavit on town affidavit form for safety compliance for accessory dwellings units.
Units,
Thank you.
just for consistency.
So there'll be two affidavits?
Yes.
Okay.
One dealing with zoning compliance, one dealing with the safety compliance under the building code.
So in your discussions with Jeb, he's comfortable then putting the onus on the owner
Yes.
for that? And to me, you follow with some question as to whether or not you should do it. If they're doing one annually, you might, in my mind, you might as well just couple it with the other one and just say annually.
Well, and I wrote it out as annual. I went back and listened to our discussion to make sure. There was some conversation, I
Yeah,
believe, from
yeah,
you,
yeah.
Paul, thinking
Others-
maybe it could be done on a different frequency basis. And so I just wanted to put it in there to make sure we've all thrashed this discussion out and can settle on what should be the standard.
Since we're only asking for pieces of paper, I don't see any reason why we can't do it annually.
Yeah, and do it,
It puts us, I think, in a
It makes it
stronger
easy
legal
for everybody.
position.
Right, and that would be my recommendation. It's easier for us to
Yep.
track versus a 2-year cycle, 4-year cycle, and
Right, yeah,
annual
yeah,
just
right.
makes it
Just
really
use that
easy.
March 15th date as
Yes.
the line in the
And,
sand.
and I picked March 15th, I didn't do January 1, because again, that's off-season,
Yeah.
we don't think that's really reflective. March 15th, while it's still not fully into season, allows people to start preparing their homes, and if they are found to have some violations or issues of enforcement, there's sufficient time built in that can be
Right,
done
they can
before
still
the summer
recover.
really
Yep,
starts.
got it.
Now, is there something in any language that allows a code official to enter a premise at any given time? Some of the language that I had shown as examples had that ability that the building official could, at their discretion, appear for an inspection.
I don't know the answer to that, so let me follow up with Jeb on that particular question.
Because you may have an item number 3 here that provides that to him, the flexibility for him to decide at any given time. He has the ability to go in.
Just to double check that this is accurate.
Right.
Or there may be, he may be processing a complaint.
Or somebody,
Right.
yeah, somebody
right.
may have,
Yep.
yeah, somebody have filed something, you go,
Yep,
okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'm hesitating is, I don't know if they can just do it, just cause. But there has to be some cause that either they've received a
It may be
complaint,
so.
or they have a
Maybe so,
concern of
right,
safety,
right,
something that they can
Yes,
document.
right, yep.
One of the things that's been said recently is that it is up to the citizens of the town to report problems when they see them. So if someone calls in and reports that an accessory dwelling unit is having 3 and 4 and 5 day turnover, how would you discover that? As you as the town official?
She wouldn't.
I may not.
Through
But
feedback.
I mean, if you get that complaint, don't you have to?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely, yes,
I
yes,
thought you
yes,
were
yes.
asking how would I discover that somebody didn't tell me
No,
that.
no, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought
I
too.
would do exactly that. I would go investigate it, which
Right.
means, okay, I've received this complaint. So I would call a property owner and say, how are you using the property? I need some documentation to that effect. I'm gonna come for a visit. Can you arrange to meet me over there? Whatever it might be. So yes, I would look
okay.
to research
So is that speaking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted flexibility because I've seen that also. This puts everything on the owner, which is fine. But I want then Jeb to have the ability to inspect on an as
The
needed.
appropriate-
You made a comment that kind of caught me,
Staff.
caught something in me. We have at least one case in town where the owner is out of country.
Yeah.
Can we meet over there?
Well, it could be, can I at least walk on your property and walk around? Maybe not enter that facility.
Okay.
Or if it's if they tell me, oh, I do have a tenant in there, would you contact your tenant and provide me access to the property to verify the tenancy?
Or I have a
Or a property
managing.
manager, there are
Whatever,
ways.
yes, property
Yeah,
manager, yes.
Organization
Right,
that's
yeah, yeah.
overseeing.
Or,
it.
or if they're out in the
Yep.
country and they say, there should be nobody living there, those are squatters. And I say, okay, let's call the police.
And get a management company.
Right,
No.
right, yeah.
Okay. As I said, Jeb and I have had this conversation, we talked about what would be some of the elements of that inspection, owner-based inspection process. We do feel that we can craft such a form, and we're gonna be working on that when he returns, he's on
Okay.
some time away from the office right now. Some of the items that we identified, smoke alarms or detectors, carbon monoxide alarms, fire extinguishers, functional doors and locks, windows free from any encumbrance and can also be open and functional. He mentioned one other, but I've already forgotten it, but he is jotting down his notes as
I
well
think
to create a list.
bars in particular were mentioned at some points.
They sit here,
Security bars?
can't have them.
Yeah.
Right,
Bars.
exactly, right,
No
right,
bars,
right.
yes. So I'll make sure, security bars, no.
Well,
Yeah,
that would
we'll-
fit under windows free from any encumbrance.
Yes.
We can put that in as another
Right.
Well, you
Yeah,
already
he's
have,
got it in here
you
somewhere.
have it on the bedroom on the
Yeah.
next page.
Okay,
on the
okay.
The requirements.
Before we go on, there, under your notes down there, the last sentence, it made me think about this. If a property is sold and the new homeowner is going to continue to use the accessory dwelling unit in a rental capacity, I think we need to keep that thought somewhere here, that new affidavit has to be created if the
Yeah,
property is
I
sold.
agree.
Okay.
You know? It doesn't grandfather over to a new owner.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
right, right.
But then that is a good, does it grandfather over in terms of use?
Yes,
It does?
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I understand. I actually would add that to number one above, so that if the property is sold, they would have to provide us an affidavit within so many days of that sale.
Yep,
Whether that be
yep.
30 days from the sale,
Whatever
just
Yeah,
confirming
whatever's
their
in-
acceptance and understanding of the town requirements for the zoning.
Yeah, I guess it would go under one, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Well, you know, you could use Blackbird's model and give them 90 days after the sale.
Why would you do that?
Well, I'm just, you know, whatever works best for you guys, really is what it boils down to.
Why not, why wouldn't it be a form that would be done at closing or provided to the town a couple days in advance, or why would we wait?
Because one, I'm not entitled just to add additional forms at a closing. That's a
Right.
legal transaction.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my first
right,
comment.
Right,
That's an authority and responsibility set out by the Code of Virginia associated with real estate transactions.
Okay.
Two, we may want to put it at a longer time frame. I just need to think about the process and how we make that happen.
Yeah.
Because for me to know when a sale happens, maybe the Post will start telling me when their transactions are really good for. Sorry.
The Eastern Shore Post?
That would be very helpful.
I
Because
wish
they give
they'd
me all the
include
listings.
addresses.
They give me all the listings, which are really great and useful. It'd be nice to know it's for the period of January 1 through whatever, but it takes some time for that information to come online electronically in the clerk system. So it may need to be a slightly longer time frame
Yeah.
than 30 days, 45 days. I
whatever.
need to go back and look at that.
yeah, you gotta figure out what works best for your
So,
process.
And then part of it, this is gonna be an educational component to
Yeah.
get this out to all the realtors to
Yes.
understand, if you have this on the premise, you need to be advising your client of this. Yeah.
And I think, you pick something, you do it for a while, and if it needs to be changed, that's fairly minor change.
Right.
Okay. As we hit on before, we actually will put in kitchen and bathroom as new definitions under Article 2. We also asked to expand and include the bedroom, a definition of a bedroom. So this is the definition, I don't need to read it, you've all had a chance to read through that.
However, we're not requiring bedrooms.
We're just defining bedroom as a general term to the zoning ordinance, which was noted as part of this review. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a requirement of an accessory dwelling unit. It was just noted it'd be useful as a whole in the administration of the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
That's all. So we're seeking to add all these definitions into the definition section of Article 2.9, which contains all the defined terms
Right.
that we felt were necessary for the zoning
Would we
ordinance.
have sleeping area in there as a definition?
I do not know. I don't have my ordinance with me this evening.
Well, because I'm just saying, if it says accessory dwelling units shall have one kitchen area, one bathroom, and a sleeping area, and then we don't define a sleeping area.
So you don't have to define every term if there are sometimes questionable interpretations that we have experienced over the administration of an ordinance. That's why you sometimes go in and define what might have been presumed. Everybody understands this term concept. You would think everybody would know what a kitchen is, but clearly we have discovered not everybody understands what we consider a kitchen
Right.
for the purposes of this zoning ordinance.
Right.
So whether we have defined sleeping area, I'm not positive under this current ordinance. I don't know if it's used elsewhere in other sections of the ordinance off the top of my head. But I think right now, I have a pretty good understanding of what a sleeping area is. For me, it's any place where nothing is moving, or maybe it's moving and I'm not in control of it moving. It would rock me to sleep. Those are all sleeping areas for me. So,
Maybe we better define it.
right now, the only place that doesn't qualify as a sleeping area is the driver's seat of a vehicle. So,
Right, right.
anyway, so I don't think that's really a definition I have to have defined at this point in time. I think that is a generally obvious definition or understanding of what that
You know,
word means.
ever since we've come up with these definitions of kitchen and bathroom, I would say there isn't an obvious definition. Because if you asked me, a bathroom would have a shower or a bathtub, but clearly it doesn't have to. So I don't think we can use the term obvious.
It's up to you if you feel, if it's not already defined, if you feel a definition should be established for sleeping area, let me know. as the
Well, we're
board.
not using the term bedroom for dwelling units, so if we're gonna use sleeping area, I feel like it should be defined. Or you could use the term bedroom, and bedroom would have that in it.
Yeah, I think sleeping area, maybe we find some generalized wording for, because it is, a bedroom is intended for sleeping, but I can't say a sleeping area is going to be defined certainly in this area as a bedroom.
Well, hang on, the definition says, bedroom is a room or space within a structure intended for sleeping.
Yeah, but it has very specific requirements.
That's right.
Okay?
Underneath that.
I can convert my living room into a sleeping area with my futon,
Right,
okay? It doesn't mean that it has to be 70 square foot, but if I have a bedroom, yes, that's a
okay,
different
okay,
story.
all right, Fair
And
enough.
bedroom obviously is used more in the zoning areas of houses and
Yep, yep.
and whatever.
yep,
So I will do a little research, go back to my planning guidebook of definitions and see if they propose one for sleeping area,
okay.
okay?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
We already mentioned the correction to the building accessory definition that needs to happen, to take out the conditional use permit reference.
We got that
And the
double A
second-
there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yep.
what?
You've been reading my notes.
Double A.
Oh, the double A. Love that double A.
Oh, boy.
I did want to just stress, because I know we had a lot of discussion during our 2 work sessions on this whole topic. And I think some of that conversation needs to be conveyed to the town council when we are ready to pass this over to them to see if they want to take this to public hearing or not, as a zoning text amendment. So I just wanted to note a few of these to see how they want to deal with what things that came up that don't fall under our purview. So that's the first thing I wanted to tackle. I think Jeb raised a good point about house addressing or house numbering, or street addressing, whatever term you identify it with, associated with the accessory dwelling unit versus the main house, especially for emergency response personnel and their vehicles.
Yep,
So I think it is worth flagging that to the town council's attention
Yes,
to see
yes.
if they would like to address that under the town code, because that's where that sits.
How would the post office, so let's say we have somebody who's living there for a year, 2 years, they need to get mail somewhere. How would the post office, where would they send the mail?
That I do not know. Again, Jeb is my guru as it relates to street addressing and house addressing, and how that is administered here for the town. So I would defer to ask him how that gets communicated over to the post office and other utility systems.
So,
I can tell you
So-
how it's handled right next door to me. Because there's a main house and there's an accessory dwelling unit. Someone lives in it full-time. She has a separate mailbox. It's, let's just say it's 404, it's 404B.
Yeah.
But now, did she come up with that, 404?
No,
That's, I think that's the post office, because
That
I have a son in Seattle, the same thing. He's in an accessory dwelling, and his is Unit B.
yeah, the previous resident was a long-term resident, so the postage didn't change.
I can weigh in on this a little bit, because I do know this, as part of when the 911 system came into being nationally. There were standards that were required across every state, every locality in every state, as to how you had to go through and automatically assign what would be the intended addressing, whether there was a structure there or not. And so every community had to go through a grid formation and assume this. And it was very challenging in a lot of rural communities, because you sit there going, well, maybe this will get subdivided at some point. It's not the 5 acres, it's not the 20 acres in your rural localities. It may eventually be a subdivision. So there were provisions made for all that when the 911 system came into being, now 30 years ago? It was a long time ago. So that's one issue. For this, 2 counties, they jointly fund the 911 center and support and staff and manage that respectively, or combined, there's my word. As part of that, we do communicate when new addresses are created for a new lot of any kind that is transmitted into the 911 system. They were using a vendor that was called MSAG. I think that vendor has gone out of business. I don't know who they have replaced it with at this point. It's been some time since I've had to be involved with the 911 center, so. But through MSAG, they would then transmit that to get it into the state GIS mapping software. They would also transmit it out to, Verizon was holding the master database for Virginia, so that would then get it into the database, and then also start to link if there were any utilities associated with those GIS coordinates, i.e. the assigned street addressing. So it would start to show up in your phone directories and things of that nature, and then become useful over to utilities looking to connect them, et cetera.
Do you know how long, on the same topic, do you know how long Cassup Parkway has been blind to most GPS systems?
It's probably been a while,
Yeah, several years.
yes. So
Speaking to how many points of failure, potential points of failure there could be in that process.
Right. And for that, again, it's did that ever get communicated, the creation of a road?
Yeah,
The
right.
entity responsible, which,
Yeah.
I hate to say it's
I know.
VDOT.
Exactly, I
we need
know.
To ensure it makes it across all the databases.
Yes,
that are
exactly,
associated.
exactly, yeah,
They-
yeah,
VDOT
right.
may have got it into their database, but
But
it may
didn't.
not have been the one that connects to
Yep.
all these other ones that
Yep.
are relevant.
Yep.
So I think Jeb was mostly concerned about emergency situations.
Yes.
Of course, that's the,
So-
yeah.
And so it starts with what's the town policy for street addressing, especially for ancillary or accessory structures for dwelling purposes.
Okay.
Because we don't provide a different address for the garage.
Right.
But it sounds like now maybe we want to petition the town council to update the policy for our addressing standard and say if there's going to be dwelling in that accessory structure, then it needs an assigned address and make it relevant to the main house. It could be the A, the B, the C of that address, 424A. So that's, I just wanted to make you aware that that's my intent, is to include that in the staff memo that goes to town council. In addition, we also noted in this review process that the town regulations for sewer and sewer use have some reference to the conditional use permit process for accessory dwelling units and how that affects the bill rate that gets charged. So again, we wanted to alert them that if we're going to eliminate conditional use permits for accessory dwelling units, they need to also tweak this element of the town code. So it establishes whatever rate structure that would be. and how that gets,
yep.
determined.
Okay.
That rate structure for sewer and water just bothers me.
I don't mean to be rude, but I think that's a conversation you need to raise with town council, because they set all rates, we do not.
No, I don't mean the
Planning
rates.
Commission.
I don't mean the no, I'm not talking about the rates. But we had talked about, well, if they don't attach that, if they just use the water from the house, right, they don't have another, they can do that, or maybe we'll reduce the amount if they do sign up if nobody's in there. I mean, we talked about a bunch of different things. I feel like we really need to pin that down on what we want to recommend.
I thought that was pinned down. There's like 3 options.
That is correct.
Well, see, I know, but
I mean, there's 3 options that the person can, the owner of the lot can do.
okay, but if the owner of the lot does not put a separate meter on the accessory dwelling unit, then they're only paying 109, right? Plus whatever extra usage they have.
No,
No.
they're paying 109, the extra usage, and 50% of your minimum bill.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
And 50% of your minimum
Correct.
bill,
yep. Right.
plus overage.
Well, they're paying
Yes.
overage anyway, the
Yes,
meter
right,
will
right,
tell you how
right,
much you're gonna pay.
Right,
Again, I don't mean to be rude, but that's not a function of the planning commission to debate this or even recommend this. This is
It's terrible.
fully under the purview of the town council. So, I get your concerns, but I think you're talking to the wrong body who can address those concerns, that's all.
Okay.
So,
Hold on.
okay, before I close this out, as I mentioned, I went back and did, listen to these tapes again to make sure I really picked up all the elements. There were some other components that did come up, and we have gotten correspondence, as you, in your packet, on should guest house be considered. As I wrote back to that individual, that wasn't part of our charge or task associated with this. It was very, very specific to what we were trying to do here. I will ensure that the town council is aware of some of these other issues that got raised during this conversation, to see if they would like to task us to take that up as a review item,
yeah, okay,
okay?
yep.
So with that said, I'm not asking for a vote again this evening since we made a couple of tweaks. I would like to put on all these tweaks, get us to a final document, and also by then we should have the proposed affidavits finalized between Deb and myself that we can share with you too.
Okay,
So we can put this on for our next meeting and hopefully get your,
Well, I'd prefer you bring this to town council next, because it will come back to us from them.
Sure.
All right, so
then
rather
if
than
you-
wait a whole month
Sure.
for us to say fine, and then wait
Maybe take the tweaks and.
to go to council, and then come back from council, you're talking 2-3 months down the road.
So if we send it to council, it's not for their approval, it's for their
Right.
input.
It's, no, it's for them to direct you to, yes, I like where you're heading, go,
go ahead and
Final.
start.
Or
send
no,
it
that's
down,
not
send
what
it
we
down to
wanted.
the public.
right?
Whichever.
It can come across as our recommendation, but no, council, oh, you're working on this? Oh,
yeah, yeah,
okay, I don't want you working on that, or
Don't
kill
you
it.
tell- You don't tell them that when you're there. That's why you're here.
I roll my eyes when they refer to planning commission. I go, no, I took, in my comments closing for the last town, I told them that we were working on this, and we will be bringing it to them
Okay,
shortly
yeah, good,
for it to be brought back to us to
Okay.
go through public hearings and
yep,
So I will do that, I will make these tweaks and move that over to Mr. Hosey and have him get it on the calendar with the town council as soon as
Okay.
possible. And again, this is all just to see if they are willing to start the formal process, which is referring it back to you, for you to set the public hearing, and let's go to town on a zoning text amendment. Okay?
Great. Thank you,
Okay.
Katie.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, there's a small monthly report from me. I want to make you aware, I am now starting the next round of reviews for Village L. In terms of, they have, oh, sorry, wrong one. I'm jumping ahead to the April report you're gonna get. We did sign off on the final plat for Village L, phases 1B, 1C, and 1D. We approved that on February 2nd, and it got recorded the same day. So I just wanted to make you aware that component of that subdivision got closed out. For the Board of Zoning Appeals, this is information for you. Typically, I know we've never had to provide you the entire application because it has been simple enough to explain to you verbally. In this one, it was a little more complex, so we did include the full application packet, so you had a full understanding of what was being sought. They're seeking a height variance for 7 Strawberry Street to expand the Hotel Cape Charles, specifically seeking to add 3 floors to that structure to create a maximum of 12 hotel rooms. And at this point, I've now released the BZA agenda as of this afternoon with the completed staff report and my analysis and recommendation for the BZA's consideration during their public hearing process. So that is now,
Can you tell us what their recommendation is?
it's an 8-page staff report. I'm gonna
Okay,
tell you
but the
that.
bottom line is, are you in
Bottom line,
agreement or?
I am not right now
Okay.
supporting,
Okay.
nor wholly opposed to. I do feel there is sufficiently incomplete information and sufficient detail for me to approve, to get to a site plan that I could provide zoning clearance on. And I say this because while they're considering a variance only, I'm actually taking it back a step. So say the variance gets approved, I'm really looking at the full use and expansion of the hotel itself and all the elements that would be part of the site plan. Parking requirements, landscaping requirements, trash receptacles and the provision of how
Right,
trash is
right.
handled and managed on the property. There's a number of things I am
So
considering.
BZA is really height requirements.
Right. From the height requirement, if they say yes to that, it triggers, can the full use of the property be managed on the property? I am concerned, based upon the application that's been provided to date, that may not be the case. Do I think there can be solutions proposed in advance and agreed upon by the property owner that might get us to a point that it can be adequately addressed on site? Yes. But I haven't reached those agreements yet with that property owner. So I cannot recommend the BZA to consider it favorably. I think there's still some open-ended questions that need to get buttoned down.
What's the date they're considering this?
Next Tuesday at 10 a.m.
8th.
And again, my full agenda and staff report are available on the website. Okay? Before we finish, we have great news for you.
We have
Okay.
new chairs.
You want to deliver it?
The new tablet
Uh-huh.
have come in, and we'd like to see if you want to come a little earlier on March the
22nd, where we have a joint meeting scheduled.
Right.
With the Harbor Area Review Board and Town Council
Right.
and this body. So we would like you to come maybe at 5:30, so we can roll out your new, what is it, Chromebooks?
Yeah.
There's the word, thank you.
What does that meeting start at,
Oh,
6 or
God.
6:30?
6.
What day again?
It's Tuesday.
I'd like to have a training session the next day then also.
Yeah.
22nd?
March
Come on.
22nd.
It's got a tutorial,
I have heard that about other things.
right?
Joint session.
Yes, that's
Does
the
it have a
joint
tutorial
session.
on it as well?
It does if you want it,
Yeah.
it's all right there.
Just like when you open it up, any computer you open up now, it has steps through it.
And we have done some tailoring so that you will have access to your email account easily. You can, I think it'll be a nice improvement from
No,
what
this
we're
one
using.
seems doesn't work.
Yeah, anything that works is an improvement.
Bill, you asked for that, so we're doing that to your next one too. We just would like, I think we could take about 20 minutes, roll this out to you, walk each of you through it. It comes with a carrying case, that way we get it assigned to you. We would actually
Chromebook.
propose retaining these items for you for one more meeting. In case you should stumble in the use of the Chromebook, we will, because part of this, when we go to the Chromebook, we are gonna migrate away from posting our agenda through Dropbox, thank you.
Oh,
From Dropbox,
It's gonna be a SharePoint or something?
right, so, yes.
It's
so-
gonna what? What's your question?
A SharePoint versus Dropbox. Dropbox is an Apple term, a SharePoint is a Windows term.
So the same concept, you have to go through a bunch of steps?
I'm looking,
Okay, one, I can do
It's a
one.
cloud environment where you pick documents.
It's a Microsoft solution.
It's a Microsoft.
Different, yes, different.
Right.
because that allowed us to move away from having to get you into several systems. There's an easier, faster way to get you directly to where you need to go.
Okay.
But we're gonna have you retain your other ones, and we'll post for one more meeting jointly. So in case you struggle with the Chromebook in any reason, you can still go back to your old way for another meeting until we can get you into a
Reliable situation, yes.
better training situation with us, more time, one-on-one with one of us
Yeah,
to
right.
walk you through it and make sure
Okay.
you can truly get in from there.
Okay, okay.
Click on any laptop and have a keyboard and mouse.
Yes, because I think that
Ah.
was one of your criticisms that I
Okay,
heard.
okay,
Listen, we listened,
We did
Bo-
listen.
Both touchpad and keyboard.
yes, that's right.
okay.
Is that Chrome the browser?
Yes.
I'm looking to Kat, because
Yes, and the operating system.
And
What's the
is
operating
Edge
system?
also?
Chrome,
Is Edge
Google.
also the browser on it?
No.
I'm surprised. Okay. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn
Second.
I'll second.
and stop the chit chat.